Trudy came to the Little Rock Zoo in 1988 for the grand opening of the Great Ape display. She was one of the first two gorillas here in Little Rock. And she came to us from the zoo in Buffalo, New York, with a male named Ollie, who's no longer with us. Prior to being in Buffalo, she had been at the St. Louis Zoo for quite a long time. And prior to that, she was actually one of the wild-caught animals that it's only the oldest animals now that are wild-caught. It's been illegal for many years, but at her age, she is one of the wild-caught gorillas in zoos. Because the records weren't that great and because she was wild-caught, we don't have any way of knowing her exact birth date. So we have two estimated birth dates, and one would make her 60 years old this year, one would make her 61 years old this year, and either way, she is the oldest gorilla in North America. I came to the zoo in 1989 from another zoo where I had worked with great apes, and Trudy was here at that time, and at the beginning she did not like me. In fact, she was hesitant to come in, and the other people would use me as bait. Of course, she couldn't get to me, but I would stand there, and because she disliked me, she would come in and try to scare me, and he could get her inside. Over the years, that has mellowed, and we have become pretty good friends. Although she is not a super human-centric gorilla, she is really very, very independent, and so we have a relationship, but I wouldn't call it a super tight bond. I think what I really admire about Trudy is that she is so independent and has always maintained this very strong personality. Really, even as she ages and she's slower, doesn't see as well as she used to, she is still very feisty and is not afraid to let you know what she thinks about things. She is a very feisty gorilla. She has never really lived in a harem situation, which is what is the normal grouping for female gorillas. So it's always been her and another male, or her and numerous males. And I think partly because of that, she has a very strong, independent personality. And in fact, she lived here at the Little Rock Zoo with 3 males, 2 younger ones, and Brutus for 12 years. And she was the one who determined who was in charge there. It wasn't her that was in charge, but whoever she weighed in with could run things. And even now with Brutus, she, for the most part, will submit to him, but if he pushes her too far and irritates her, she will run up and let him know what she thinks. She is very aware of things around her. She does not like changes in her environment, whether that are workmen that she doesn't know, or new keepers, or maybe a new piece of equipment in her environment. She is not fond of that. She very much likes routine and predictability. She is a very, I describe her as a short, round gorilla. And that, it seems like, to me, in my experience, many of the other wild-caught gorillas that I've seen tend to be smaller in stature. And I don't know, I speculate that maybe that's because in the wild, the plane of nutrition for moms and babies isn't as predictable or as high as in captive gorillas, where we can control their diet. Many, many years ago, when she was a young gorilla, she and the original male that she was housed with had a baby. And back then, it was not an unusual thing. They were living in pairs in small exhibits and didn't have the mothering skills because they'd been taken from their mothers. And so that youngster was hand-raised and died many years ago. That's the only time she's had a youngster. And in fact, she's not very interested in silverback gorillas except as a roommate. Oh, Trudy very much likes things like grapes and raisins. She is not a very picky animal. I just love her. She likes to sleep in later in the mornings now than she used to, and we have to kind of encourage her to get out of bed. She is on some medication for her arthritis, so she feels a little better after she gets that in her. And even now, some evenings, she may want to stay out when it's nice and still light out, and there's very little we can do to make her do anything that she doesn't want to. Very often, even if Trudy's outside, you may not be able to see her because she naps more than she used to, just like any elder person. And so a lot of times she may be in a shady spot on exhibit where you can't necessarily see her. But if you do see a keeper up you can ask them if she's out, and they might be able to point her out to you, because often she's in the corners of her exhibit.